The egg shouldn't have been there at all. Dr. Nina Ross knelt in the red sand of Talus 7, her gloved hands hovering over the strange oval object half buried near the cliff base. The planet's twin suns cast harsh shadows across the rocky landscape, and her scanner beeped with readings that made no sense. The shell pulsed with faint bioluminescence, patterns of blue and green rippling across its surface like northern lights. "Nina, we need to move. Storm's coming in fast." Dr. Patel's voice crackled through her helmet comm. She should have listened. Protocol demanded they report unusual biological finds and wait for the xenobiology team. But the egg trembled under her touch and something inside her chest tightened. This wasn't just a specimen. This was a life trying desperately to survive. "Help me get it to the rover," she said. 3 hours later, the egg sat in her lab aboard the research station, surrounded by monitoring equipment. Captain Owen Reed stood in the doorway, arms crossed, his weathered face creased with disapproval. "You broke quarantine protocol," he said flatly. "It would have died in that storm." Nina adjusted the temperature controls, watching the readings stabilize. "Whatever's inside is close to hatching. I couldn't just leave it. You don't know what it is. That's why I'm going to find out." Reed sighed. He'd worked with Nina for 2 years, long enough to know that once she committed to something, argument was pointless. "Keep it contained. Any sign of danger, you terminate it. Understood?" Nina nodded, but her attention had already returned to the egg. For 3 days, she barely left the lab. The egg's shell grew thinner, more translucent. She could see movement inside now, something curled and waiting. On the 4th night, as station personnel slept through the artificial darkness of their rotation, the shell began to crack. Nina watched, transfixed, as a small claw pushed through. Then another. The creature struggled, and without thinking, she reached out and carefully peeled away a section of shell, helping it emerge. The hatchling tumbled onto the padded surface, wet and trembling. It was roughly the size of a house cat, covered in dark scales that shimmered with an oil-slick rainbow effect. Its head was angular, with large golden eyes that blinked rapidly in the lab's lights. 4 legs, a long tail, and along its spine, small ridges that might one day become formidable spikes. It looked up at Nina and made a small, questioning sound. "Hello there," she whispered, her heart hammering. "You're safe now." The hatchling took 2 wobbly steps toward her, then collapsed. Nina quickly wrapped it in a thermal blanket and began checking its vitals. Healthy, just exhausted from the effort of hatching. She sat with it through the night, and when it finally woke, it pressed close to her side and fell asleep again, breathing softly. That's how Captain Reed found them in the morning. Nina dozing in her chair with the alien creature curled in her lap. "Nina," his voice was tight. "Step away from it, slowly." She opened her eyes, groggy and confused. "What? Why?" "Because I just received a priority transmission from the Galactic Collective." He held up his datapad. "They've identified your little friend. It's a Sirith." The word meant nothing to her, but Reed's expression told her everything she needed to know. "They're sending a delegation. They'll be here in 6 hours," he paused. "They're calling it a Class 5 extinction threat." The hatchling stirred in Nina's arms, nuzzling against her. She stroked its head gently, feeling the warm scales under her fingers. "That's ridiculous, look at it. It's just a baby." "Nina, according to collective records, the Sirith destroyed 4 colonies before they were hunted to near extinction. They're classified as non-sentient killing machines. The galaxy spent 2 centuries making sure they were wiped out." "Then how did this egg get here?" Nina demanded. "Talus 7 is nowhere near their recorded territories." "I don't know. But it doesn't matter. They want it destroyed before it matures." Nina's arms tightened protectively around the sleeping creature. "No, this isn't a debate, you're right." "It isn't," she met his eyes. "I'm not letting them kill it based on what its species allegedly did centuries ago. Not without proof. Not without giving it a chance." Reed ran a hand through his graying hair. "You're putting this entire station at risk. Then let me prove it's safe. Give me until the delegation arrives. 6 hours. If I'm wrong, if it shows any sign of aggression, I'll agree to whatever they decide." The hatchling yawned, showing tiny sharp teeth, and made a contented chirping sound. Reed stared at them both for a long moment. 6 hours, but it stays in a containment field and you don't go in there alone." "Deal." As he left, Nina looked down at the creature in her arms. It gazed back with those intelligent golden eyes, and she could have sworn she saw understanding there. "They're calling you a monster," she said softly, "but I don't think that's what you are. Let's prove them wrong together." The hatchling made a small trilling sound and pressed its head against her palm. Outside the lab windows, she could see the distant stars where the collective delegation was already traveling toward them, carrying judgment and death. Nina had 6 hours to save a life. She intended to use every second. Ambassador Quinn arrived with an armed escort and a portable incinerator. Nina watched through the observation window as the alien delegation filed into the station's main conference room. Quinn belonged to the Taurus species, tall and insectoid with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected light in unsettling ways. 3 other species accompanied them, each representing major powers in the Galactic Collective. "They're not here to negotiate," Dr. Patel said quietly beside her. "Look at their equipment," Nina had noticed. This wasn't a diplomatic visit. This was an execution party. "Where's the specimen?" Quinn's voice came through the comm system, translated into flat, emotionless English. Captain Reed gestured toward the lab section. "Secured in containment. Dr. Ross has been monitoring it." "Monitoring?" One of Quinn's arms made a sharp gesture. "Captain, you were ordered to terminate on sight. The Sirith are not subjects for study. They are existential threats. With respect, Ambassador, the creature is barely 4 days old. It's shown no aggressive behavior. They never do. Not at first." Quinn pulled up a holographic display. "I will show you what your doctor is protecting." The images that followed made Nina's stomach turn. Planets reduced to ash, cities torn apart, bodies, so many bodies of dozens of different species. The Sirith in these records were nothing like the small creature sleeping in her lab. They were massive armored monsters with fangs like swords and claws that could rip through metal. 243 billion lives, Quinn stated. That is the documented death toll from Sirith attacks over a 70-year period. They consumed everything. Worlds that took millennia to build, gone in months. But why? Nina's voice cut through the silence. She'd entered the room without realizing it. Unable to stay away. Species don't just attack randomly. There's always a reason. Quinn's compound eyes focused on her. "You are the one who brought this abomination aboard?" "I'm the one who saved a dying infant, yes." "Then you are either foolish or suicidal." Quinn pulled up another image. "This is what your infant becomes. A Sirith reaches full maturity in 18 months. By then it will be 4 meters tall and capable of tearing through reinforced steel. Its metabolism requires massive amounts of protein. When it gets hungry enough, it will not care where that protein comes from." Nina forced herself to look at the massive creature in the hologram. It did share features with the hatchling. The same scale pattern, the same ridge structure. But there was something wrong with the image. Something she couldn't quite place. "What happened to their homeworld?" she asked. "Irrelevant. It's not irrelevant. Every species has an origin. Where did they come from?" Quinn's arms twitched in what might have been irritation. Their planet was designated Sorrow 9 by early explorers. It was already dying when the Sirith left it. Stellar radiation had made it uninhabitable. So they were refugees. They were invaders who refused peaceful relocation. Did anyone offer them peaceful relocation? Nina pressed. Or did the galaxy just see monsters and start shooting? "Dr. Ross, your empathy is misplaced." Quinn moved toward the door. "Take me to the specimen. I will handle its termination personally." Nina's hand went to the emergency lock on the conference room door. "No," Captain Reed stepped forward. "Nina, don't. I've been studying it for 4 days. Do you want to know what I've found?" She pulled up her own data pad, fingers flying across the interface. It recognizes 17 different words. It responds to its name. It solves puzzles meant for species with triple its expected intelligence. "Irrelevant," Quinn repeated. "It has nightmares." Nina's voice cracked slightly. Last night it woke up crying. Actual tears. It was terrified and it didn't calm down until I held it. That's not a mindless killing machine. That's a traumatized child. The Sirith do not have nightmares. They are incapable of complex emotion. Then explain this. Nina played a video file. In it, the hatchling sat in its containment area, carefully stacking colored blocks, not randomly but in precise patterns, creating complex geometric shapes. When it finished, it looked directly at the camera and made a series of sounds. "That's a mathematical sequence," Dr. Patel said, leaning forward. "It's counting in base 12. The room went silent. "Impossible," Quinn said, but there was uncertainty in the translator's tone now. The Sirith are non-sentient, are they? Nina pulled up another file. Or did the galaxy decide they were non-sentient because it was easier than admitting genocide? You dare suggest— I suggest that maybe everyone got it wrong. Maybe the Sirith weren't attacking colonies. Maybe they were desperately looking for new homes, and when they were fired on, they defended themselves. Maybe an entire species was wiped out because of a misunderstanding. Quinn's compound eyes seemed to fracture the light differently now. Even if true, which I do not concede, it changes nothing. The risk is too great. The risk of what? Learning we were wrong? Nina shook her head. I'm not letting you kill it based on 200-year-old propaganda. Captain Reed, control your officer or I will have her removed from this station. Reed looked between them, jaw tight. Nina, I can't let you obstruct a collective order. Then arrest me. But you'll have to go through me to get to that hatchling. Before anyone could respond, an alarm shrieked through the station. Red emergency lights flooded the corridors. Report, Reed barked into his comm. Sir, we've got a problem in Lab 7. The security officer's voice was strained. The Sirith specimen broke containment. Nina's blood went cold. That's impossible. The field was— It melted through the wall, sir. We're tracking it through the ventilation system. Quinn turned to Nina, and though the translator gave no emotion, the body language was clear. Vindication. You see, it has already begun. The ambassador gestured to the armed escort. Find it, kill it. Before it reaches populated sections, Nina was already running. Behind her, she heard Reed shouting orders, heard the heavy footfalls of the security team. But all she could think about was the small creature that trusted her, now frightened and alone in the metal corridors of a station full of people who wanted it dead. She had to find it first. She had to keep her promise. Nina found the hatchling in the lower maintenance level, huddled behind a coolant pipe. It wasn't trying to hide. It was sitting in plain view, scales rippling with distressed patterns of dark blue and gray. When it saw her, it made a sound she'd never heard before, a high-pitched keen that made her heart break. Hey, it's okay. She knelt slowly, hands out. I'm here now. You're safe. The creature rushed to her, pressing against her legs and making desperate chirping noises. Nina scooped it up, feeling it tremble in her arms. It had grown noticeably in just 4 days, now about the size of a medium dog, but it still felt fragile. What happened? Why did you break out? The hatchling pulled back slightly and made a series of gestures with its front claws. Nina had seen this before. It was trying to communicate. I don't understand. Show me slower. It repeated the gestures, then pointed back toward the lab section. Then it made a pushing motion, followed by covering its eyes with its claws. Someone pushed you? Someone scared you? The creature nodded. Actually nodded, a gesture it must have learned from watching her. Nina's jaw tightened. Someone had accessed the lab and deliberately terrorized it. Before she could process this, heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. The security team was close. We need to go somewhere safe. Will you trust me? The hatchling chirped and climbed onto her shoulders, wrapping around her neck like a scarf. It was heavier than expected, but she managed. Nina headed deeper into the maintenance section, away from the main corridors. She knew this station better than most. 2 years of late-night research walks had taught her every shortcut and forgotten storage room. She ducked into an old equipment bay, sealed the door, and finally took a breath. The hatchling climbed down and began exploring the room, sniffing at old crates and discarded machinery. Her comm unit crackled. Nina, where are you? It was Reed. Somewhere safe. Quinn wants you arrested for obstruction. They're threatening to involve the collective military. Let them. Nina, be reasonable. We can't fight the entire galactic collective. I'm not asking you to fight anyone. I'm asking you to give me time to prove this creature isn't dangerous. There was a long pause. What makes you so sure? Nina watched the hatchling investigate a dusty toolbox. It carefully picked up items, examined them, and gently set them back down. Because I've spent 4 days with it, Owen. I've watched it learn, watched it think, watched it feel. Whatever its species did centuries ago, this individual is innocent. Even if true, how do you prove that to people who won't listen? That was the question, wasn't it? Nina sat on a crate, and the hatchling immediately came over and climbed into her lap. It curled up, making soft, contented sounds. There's someone who might help, she said slowly. Bren, the engineer from the collective ship. The one who's been asking questions about our research? He doesn't trust Quinn, I could tell during the meeting. He kept looking at the evidence files like something bothered him. That's a big assumption, Nina. It's all I've got. Reed was quiet for a moment. I'll try to arrange a private meeting. But Nina, you need to understand. If this goes wrong, they won't just terminate the Sirith. They'll shut down this entire station. Everyone here will lose their positions, maybe face criminal charges. I know. And you're still willing to risk that? Nina looked down at the creature in her arms. It gazed back with those golden eyes, intelligent and trusting. Yes. 2 hours later, Bren slipped into the equipment bay. He was humanoid but shorter, with gray skin and large dark eyes. His uniform marked him as an engineering specialist, not military. He looked nervous. This is incredibly dangerous, he said without preamble. If Quinn discovers I'm here, why did you come then? Nina asked. Bren stared at the hatchling, which had woken and was watching him curiously. Because I was there. 20 years ago. I was part of the fleet that found the last Sirith breeding colony. Nina's breath caught. What happened? We were told it would be a military target. Soldiers, weapons, the usual. But when we arrived, so he closed his eyes. It was families. Nests with eggs. Young ones barely able to walk. They didn't fight us. They begged. Some of our translators picked up their language. They were asking for mercy, for their children. What did the fleet do? We followed orders. His voice was hollow. We destroyed everything. Some of us protested, filed reports. Those reports were classified. Witnesses were reassigned to distant posts. The official story became that the Sirith were mindless beasts, and we'd put down a dangerous infestation. The hatchling made a low sound, almost like it understood. It walked over to Bren and sat in front of him, head tilted. I've lived with that day for 20 years, Bren said quietly. I told myself we had no choice, that the threat was real. But looking at this one now, he reached out slowly and the hatchling allowed him to touch its head. This doesn't look like a monster to me. Can you help me prove that to others? I can do better than that. Bren pulled out a data chip. I kept copies of the original reports, the ones that were classified. Testimony from the crews, linguistic analysis showing the Sirith were begging for peace, genetic studies proving they were fully sentient. He handed it to Nina. It's all here. Everything they buried. Why didn't you release this before? Fear, cowardice, take your pick. Bren looked at the hatchling again. But maybe this is my chance to make it right. If you can broadcast this, if you can show the galaxy what really happened, maybe we can stop this cycle. Nina took the chip, hands shaking. Quinn won't let this get out quietly. No, they'll try to shut you down the moment you start transmitting. Bren stood. You'll need to access the main communications array. I can get you there, but once you start broadcasting, you'll have maybe 10 minutes before they cut the power. 10 minutes to change history, or 10 minutes to end your career and possibly your life. Bren looked at her seriously. Are you sure about this? The hatchling climbed back onto Nina's shoulders, chirping softly in her ear. She felt its warmth, its trust, its hope, I'm sure. Then we move tonight. During the shift change, that's when security will be thinnest. Bren moved toward the door, then paused. Dr. Ross? Thank you, for being braver than I was. After he left, Nina held the data chip up to the light. Such a small thing to carry the weight of genocide and redemption. The hatchling nuzzled her cheek and she made a promise to it and to herself. Whatever came next, she would see this through. The shift change happened at midnight station time, when half the crew rotated to sleep cycles. Nina waited in the shadows of Corridor Junction 12, the hatchling tucked inside her jacket. It had learned to stay quiet during dangerous moments, another sign of its remarkable intelligence. She could feel its heartbeat against her ribs, fast but steady. Security team just passed Section 4. Dr. Patel's voice whispered through her earpiece. You've got a clear path to the comm array for approximately 8 minutes. Copy that. Bren appeared from a maintenance hatch, gesturing for her to follow. They moved quickly through the empty corridors, avoiding main pathways. The communications array was located in the station's central hub, a room filled with equipment that connected them to the broader galaxy. I've already bypassed the security locks, Bren said, typing rapidly at a control panel. Once you insert that chip and start transmitting, it'll go out on every major frequency. News networks, government channels, public feeds. Everyone will see it. How long until Quinn realizes what's happening? Minutes. Maybe less. He pulled up the broadcast interface. Ready? Nina took out the data chip, her hand hovering over the slot. This was it. No going back after this point. The hatchling poked, its head out of her jacket, looking at the screens with curious eyes. For you, she whispered to it, and inserted the chip. The screens flared to life. Files began uploading, spreading across the network like wildfire. Nina watched as classified documents opened, showing the truth the Galactic Collective had hidden for 2 decades. Reports from soldiers who witnessed Sirith families destroyed, linguistic analysis proving they were intelligent, genetic studies, communications logs showing they'd tried to negotiate, and then came the video files. Nina had to look away from some of them. The Sirith hadn't attacked those colonies. They'd been trying to establish peaceful settlements. When fired upon, they defended themselves, yes, but the footage showed them trying to retreat, trying to protect their young, trying to surrender. Upload at 40%, Bren reported. Still going strong. That's when the alarm started. They know. Nina grabbed the console. How much longer? At least 3 more minutes for full upload. Can you? The door exploded inward. Not opened, exploded. Smoke filled the room, and through it came Quinn and a full military detail. Weapons raised. Step away from the console, Dr. Ross. Nina positioned herself between them and the screens. No. You are committing an act of war against the Galactic Collective. I'm committing an act of truth. Nina pointed at the screens. You lied about all of it. The Sirith weren't monsters. They were refugees you slaughtered because it was easier than admitting you were wrong. Quinn's forearms gestured sharply, and 2 guards moved forward. The hatchling burst from Nina's jacket with a shriek, placing itself between her and the soldiers. It was growing rapidly now, already twice the size it had been that morning. Its scales had hardened, and the ridges along its spine stood up like a warning. See? Quinn said coldly. Already it shows its true nature, violent, aggressive, dangerous. It's protecting me, Nina countered. That's not violence. That's love. The hatchling glanced back at her, and she saw something in its eyes. Understanding. Decision. It turned back to the guards and made a low rumbling sound but didn't advance. It was holding ground, not attacking. Upload at 70%, Bren called out. Keep them talking. You want to talk about danger? Nina pulled up another file on the screens. Let's talk about the massacre of Sorrow 9. When your fleet found the last breeding colony and destroyed it. Not soldiers, not warriors. Children, babies, eggs that would never hatch. They were a threat to every species in the galaxy. They were a dying race asking for help. Nina's voice broke. And instead of offering sanctuary, you offered extinction. You're not protecting the galaxy, Ambassador, you're protecting your lie. Quinn moved forward, and so did the guards. The hatchling tensed, ready to fight. Nina could see the calculation in its eyes. It knew it couldn't win against armed soldiers, but it was going to try anyway. For her. Please, Nina said, not to Quinn, but to the creature. Don't. I'm not worth it. The hatchling looked back at her and made a sound that broke her heart. It was asking permission, asking if it should fight, asking what she needed. Stand down, she told it. Let them see you're more than what they think you are. For a long moment, the hatchling didn't move. Then, slowly, it stepped back to Nina's side and sat. It didn't run, didn't hide, just sat there vulnerable and trusting. Upload complete, Bren announced. It's out there. Everything. Quinn froze. What have you done? What someone should have done 20 years ago. Nina pulled the hatchling close. The truth is out there now. Every network, every planet, every species, they'll see what really happened. They'll see what you tried to hide. The ambassador's compound eyes seemed to fragment the light in new patterns. Anger, maybe, or fear. You've destroyed yourself for nothing. The collective will suppress this, declare it false information. Maybe. Captain Reed's voice came through the comm system, broadcasting to everyone on the station. Or maybe they'll have to answer some hard questions. Because those transmissions didn't just go to news networks. They went to independent worlds, to academic institutions, to species outside the collective's control. You can't suppress them all. On the screens, notifications were already flooding in. Responses from across the galaxy. Outrage, shock, demands for investigation. The story was spreading faster than the collective could contain it. Quinn stared at the screens, then at Nina, then at the hatchling sitting calmly at her feet. You've signed the death warrant for your entire species. When the Sirith grow, when they remember what was done to them, they will seek revenge. And they will find it. Or, Nina said quietly, they'll learn from us. Learn that not everyone in this galaxy is like you. That some of us are willing to fight for them, to protect them, to give them a chance. The hatchling leaned against her leg, and Nina rested her hand on its head. On the screens, more messages poured in. Calls for Quinn's resignation, demands for collective reform, independent species offering sanctuary to any surviving Sirith. This isn't over, Quinn said. No, Nina agreed. It's just beginning. The ambassador and the guards left, weapons lowered but not holstered. In the silence that followed, Nina sat on the floor, exhausted. The hatchling climbed into her lap, larger now but still fitting, still trusting. You did it, Bren said, staring at the screens in awe. You actually did it. We did it, Nina corrected. She looked down at the creature in her arms. All of us. The hatchling chirped, a sound of contentment, and closed its eyes. Within moments, it was asleep, the steady rise and fall of its breathing the only sound in the room. Dr. Patel's voice came through the comm. Nina, you should see this. Ships are arriving, dozens of them. Independent vessels from all over the galaxy. They're requesting permission to dock. Why? They want to help. They want to protect it. Nina smiled through tears. Tell them they're welcome. Outside the windows, she could see the lights of approaching ships. 3 days after the broadcast, the station had become something Nina never expected. A sanctuary. Ships from dozens of independent worlds crowded the docking bay. Representatives from species Nina had never heard of walked the corridors, all wanting to witness the Sirith hatchling that had sparked a galactic controversy. Some came with offers of protection. Others brought ancient texts and historical records, piecing together the true history of the Sirith people, but not everyone came with peaceful intentions. Another ship just entered the system, Captain Reed reported during the morning briefing. Collective military vessel. That makes 3 this week. They can't do anything while we have witnesses, Dr. Patel pointed out. The whole galaxy is watching. That's what worries me. Reed pulled up a star chart. They're not trying to hide. They're building a blockade, slowly, quietly. But they're surrounding us. Nina listened while feeding the hatchling. It had grown significantly in the past week, now roughly the size of a large wolf. Its appetite had increased too, though it remained gentle, taking food carefully from her hands. It had also started making more complex sounds, mimicking words it heard frequently. Nina, it said clearly, making everyone in the room freeze. Yes, sweetheart. I'm Nina. Nina's safe. She hugged it, feeling tears prick her eyes. Yes, Nina's safe. You keep me safe. The creature, which the station crew had started calling ash for its dark coloring, nuzzled against her. It never went far from her side anymore. When she slept, it curled around her. When she worked, it lay at her feet. The bond between them had grown stronger than she'd imagined possible. This is remarkable. Dr. Patel recorded notes on his datapad. The rate of cognitive development is extraordinary. It's learning language faster than human children. Because it's not learning from scratch, said a new voice. An elderly alien shuffled into the room, supported by a walking aide. He belonged to a species called the Historians, known for their vast libraries and perfect memories. The Sirith pass knowledge genetically. Each generation inherits the memories of those who came before. Nina looked at Ash with new understanding. So it remembers? Not consciously, not yet. But the knowledge is there, waiting. As it matures, it will recall more. The history of its people, the wars, the genocide. The historian looked at Ash with sad eyes. It will remember the burning. Then why is it so gentle? If it carries those memories, shouldn't it hate us? Because memories are not destiny. The historian moved closer and Ash watched him but didn't retreat. It remembers fear and pain, yes, but it also remembers you, the first face it saw, the first kindness it knew. You have given it new memories to balance the old ones. Ash made a low, rumbling sound and leaned against Nina's leg. The question, the historian continued, is what happens when it fully matures and must choose between the memories of its ancestors and the bond with you. Before Nina could respond, alarms blared through the station. Collective ships are moving, Reed barked. All of them. They're converging on our position. Everyone rushed to the command center. On the view screens, 6 military vessels formed a tight formation around the station. A transmission came through and Quinn's face appeared. This is your final warning, Captain Reed. Surrender the Cirith specimen within 1 hour, or we will take it by force. You can't, Reed said. There are civilian ships here. Dozens of them. You'd be starting a war. We are preventing one. Quinn's compound eyes reflected cold certainty. That creature is growing. Soon it will be too dangerous to contain. We have evidence that the Cirith reach emotional maturity at approximately 6 weeks. When that happens, genetic memories become dominant. It will remember what we did to its kind. It will seek revenge. You don't know that, Nina shouted at the screen, don't I? Quinn pulled up recent footage of Ash. Watch, your precious innocent. The video showed Ash in Nina's quarters last night. Nina had been asleep and Ash had been pacing the room. But there was something different about its movements. Something agitated. It had stopped in front of a mirror and stared at its reflection, and for just a moment its scales had flickered with patterns of red and orange. Anger patterns, it's beginning, Quinn said. The awakening. Soon it won't be able to control the rage its ancestors felt, and when that happens it will kill everyone on that station, starting with you, Dr. Ross. The transmission ended. Nina stood frozen, staring at the empty screen. Around her, people were arguing, making plans, but she couldn't hear them. All she could think about was Ash pacing in the dark, struggling with memories and feelings it didn't understand. She found Ash in their shared quarters, curled in its favorite corner. When it saw her, it made a happy sound and bounded over. But she noticed what she'd missed before. Small signs of stress, the way it kept looking at the walls like it expected them to close in, the way it flinched at loud noises. You're scared, she said softly. Aren't you? Scared, Ash repeated. Then struggling with the words memories. Bad? I know, baby. I know. She sat down and Ash immediately pressed against her. The memories aren't you. They're what happened to your family a long time ago, but they don't decide who you are. You decide that. Ash was quiet for a long moment. Then Nina. Stay, always. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? The word came out so clearly, so full of desperate hope, that Nina felt her heart break and heal at the same time. I promise. Ash settled against her, and they sat together as the station prepared for whatever came next. Through the window, Nina could see the collective ships holding position, waiting, and she knew Quinn was right about one thing. The awakening was coming, the moment when Ash would have to choose between the rage of its ancestors and the love of its first friend, between the memories of fire and the warmth of trust. Nina could only hope that the time they'd spent together would be enough, that the bond they'd formed would be stronger than genetic memory. That love could triumph over inherited trauma. Outside, the ships waited. Inside, a human and a Cirith held each other in the darkness, hoping against hope that they wouldn't have to fight. Nina, Ash whispered. Yes, if I become bad, if memories take over, you run, you leave, promise. Nina's throat tightened. No, please. No, she said firmly, pulling Ash closer. I don't care what memories you carry. I know who you are. And I'm not leaving you, ever. Ash made a sound somewhere between a cry and a purr, pressing its head under her chin. They stayed like that through the night while outside the station. Ships armed with weapons designed to kill Cirith powered up their systems. The awakening happened at dawn. Nina woke to find Ash standing at the window, scales rippling with colors she'd never seen before. Deep red, angry orange, the colors of fire and blood. The creature had grown again overnight, now standing nearly 2 meters tall. Its claws had lengthened, sharpened. The ridges along its spine stood like blades. Ash? Her voice was steady despite her racing heart. The creature turned, and for the first time since hatching, Nina felt afraid. Ash's golden eyes were different, older, haunted by memories that weren't its own. "I remember," Ash said, the words thick with accent but clear. "I remember everything." "Tell me." Ash moved away from the window and Nina could see it was shaking. "My people. We came from a world of ice and fire, beautiful, perfect. Then the star began to die, radiation, poison, everything dying. It looked at its claws. We built ships, not many. Only enough for the young, the healthy, those who could survive, could start again. You were looking for a new home." "Yes." We asked. We begged, "Please shelter. Please land. Please save our children." Ash's scales flickered darker. They said no. Said we were monsters. Said we would consume their worlds. We explained we are not like that. We eat, yes, but not people. Never people. But they did not believe. Nina stood slowly, carefully. What happened then? They fired first, always, every world. We would approach with open communications, with peace offerings, and they would fire. Ash's voice grew rough. So we defended, we fought. We were strong, yes, built for harsh worlds. But we never wanted war. We wanted homes. We wanted to raise our children in safety. I believe you. Then they hunted us. Tracked the last colony to Sorrow 9. My ancestors, they knew death was coming. So they sent the eggs away. All of them. Scattered them across the galaxy, hoping, praying that some would survive, that the Sirith would not end. Ash looked at Nina and tears rolled down its scaled face. I am the only one, the last. All the others dead before hatching. I know this. I remember their deaths in my blood. Nina's own tears fell freely now. I'm so sorry. They killed children. Ash's voice broke. They killed mothers protecting eggs. They killed elders who could barely walk. They killed everyone. And they called it justice. The colors on Ash's scales shifted to burning red. The creature's claws dug into the floor, leaving marks in the metal. Nina could feel the rage radiating from it, generations of pain and anger crystallizing into this moment. I should hate you, Ash said. Hate all of you. You stand on two legs like them. You speak like them. You are like the ones who burned my world. Yes, Nina said quietly. We probably are. I should kill you. The memories say kill, say take revenge, say make them hurt like we hurt. You could. Nina didn't move. I wouldn't fight you. If that's what you need, if that's what would help, I won't stop you. Ash stared at her, scales rippling through colors like a storm. Why do you not run? Why do you not fight? Because I love you. Nina took a step closer. Because I know you. Not your ancestors, not your species, you. And I know that you're better than what they made you, better than the pain they caused. I am alone. Ash's voice was anguish itself, last of my kind. The memories show me billions, cities, families, songs and stories and hopes, all gone, all dust, and I am the only one left to carry them. No. Nina closed the distance between them, placing her hand on Ash's arm. The creature flinched but didn't pull away. You're not alone. You have me, and everyone on this station who fought to protect you, and dozens of species out there who want to help. It is not enough. Nothing is enough to balance what was lost. You're right. Nothing can balance it. Nothing can fix it. Nina looked up into those golden eyes. But you can choose what happens next. You can choose who you want to be. Not who your ancestors were. Not who Quinn says you are. Who you want to be. Ash was silent for a long moment. Its scales continued to shift colors. Red to orange to yellow. Like a sunset struggling toward peace. I am so angry, it whispered. I know. I want to hurt them. I know. But... Ash looked down at Nina, and the colors began to slow. But you showed me kindness when you did not have to. You protected me when they wanted me dead. You held me when I had nightmares. You taught me that not everyone is like them. What do you want, Ash? Not what the memories want. What do you want? The creature's scales shifted to soft blue, the color of trust. I want to stay with you. I want to not be alone. I want to prove they were wrong. Prove my people were not monsters. Prove we deserve to live. Then that's what we'll do. An explosion rocked the station. Alarms screamed. Captain Reed's voice came through the comm system. All personnel to emergency stations. The collective is firing on the civilian ships. Nina and Ash ran to the command center. The view screens showed chaos. The collective military vessels were targeting the independent ships that had come to witness and protect. They weren't trying to destroy them, but they were forcing them back. creating a clear path to the station. "They're clearing the witnesses," Reed said grimly. "Once the civilians are gone, they'll board us and take Ash by force." "How long?" "Minutes. Maybe less." Ash moved to the center of the room, drawing everyone's attention. The creature stood tall, scales shimmering with steady blue now. When it spoke, its voice carried an authority that Nina had never heard before. "I will go with them." "No," Nina said immediately. "Yes." Ash looked at her with infinite sadness. "They attack because of me. They risk lives because of me. I will not let others die for my existence." "That's exactly what they want." "I know." Ash reached out and gently touched Nina's face with one claw. The gesture impossibly tender. "But you taught me that sacrifice means something. That protecting others matters more than revenge, more than anger. If I must die so that you and these people live, then that is my choice. There has to be another way." "Perhaps there is." The old historian pushed forward through the crowd. "Perhaps there is a way for everyone to see what we see, to know what we know." He pulled out an ancient device covered in symbols Nina didn't recognize. "This is a memory broadcaster. My people use it to share our perfect memories with others. If Ash would consent, we could broadcast its memories, its feelings, its truth. Not to just this station, but to every ship in range, to the collective crews preparing to kill it. Let them feel what Ash feels. Let them know what was lost." Ash looked at the device, then at Nina. "It will hurt, sharing memories like that. It will hurt me and it will hurt them. Will you do it? If it means they understand. If it means no more lies." Ash knelt so it was eye level with Nina. "But you must promise me something." "Anything. If this does not work, if they still come, you run. You take the emergency shuttle and you go far from here. You live, you tell my story. You make sure someone remembers my people as they truly were. Promise me." Nina wanted to argue, to refuse, to fight, but she looked into Ash's eyes and saw not a monster, not a weapon, but a scared young creature trying desperately to save those it loved. "I promise." The historian activated the device. Ash placed its claws on the sensors and light erupted through the room. But not just the room. Every screen on the station, every display on the collective ships, every communication channel, and through it all they felt what Ash felt. The memories flooded through, raw and unfiltered. The beauty of the dying world. The desperate evacuation. The hope of finding new homes. The confusion when fired upon. The pain of watching colonies destroyed. The grief of being the last. The loneliness, the fear. The love for the human who had shown kindness when the galaxy showed none. Nina felt it too, fell to her knees under the weight of it. Centuries of pain compressed into minutes, but also hope. Small and fragile, but there. Hope that things could be different. Hope that one act of kindness could start to heal ancient wounds. When it ended, silence filled the station. On the view screens, the collective ships had stopped moving. Inside them, crews were crying, vomiting, collapsing under the weight of what they'd just experienced. Quinn's face appeared on the screen, and the ambassador looked shaken to its core. We did not know. You thought we were monsters," Ash said, still kneeling beside Nina. "But monsters are made, not born. You made us into what you feared. And now I ask you, will you make me into a monster too? Or will you let me prove you wrong?" The silence stretched. Then one by one, the collective ships began to power down their weapons. Quinn's compound eyes seemed to fracture light in new ways. "We were wrong," the ambassador said slowly. "About everything. About your people. About you. We will not make that mistake again." The blockade dissolved. Ships from across the galaxy continued to arrive, not with weapons, but with offers of help, offers of sanctuary, offers of protection for the last Cirith. Nina held Ash as the creature finally broke down, sobbing with relief and exhaustion. Around them, the station crew cheered, but Nina only had attention for the being in her arms. "You did it," she whispered. "You saved everyone." "We did it," Ash corrected, the colors on its scales settling into gentle blues and greens. "Together." That night, as Ash curled around Nina in their quarters, the creature made one final request. "Stay?" it asked, the word simple but carrying so much weight. "Always," Nina promised. "I'll always stay." Ash made a contented sound and closed its eyes, finally at peace. Outside, ships bearing the flags of 100 worlds stood guard. Not to imprison, but to protect. The galaxy had called it a monster and tried to end it. Instead, they learned what humanity had known all along, that love is stronger than hate, that kindness can overcome fear, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose gentleness when you have every reason to choose violence. And the last Sirith chose gentleness every day for the rest of its long life.